In the autumn of 1868, the air in inner London was thick with soot and ambition. The Midland Railway Company, determined to etch its name into the city's burgeoning landscape, had begun constructing St Pancras Station, a grand cathedral of iron and glass that would rival the might of King's Cross. But progress came at a cost. Beneath the chosen site lay an ancient cemetery, its weathered headstones tilting like forgotten sentinels. The graves, some dating back to the 17th century, held the remains of Londoners long past, paupers, merchants, and, as it would soon be revealed, a mysterious foreigner whose bones would weave a tale of intrigue and superstition. The cemetery, nestled in the shadow of St Pancras Old Church, was a tangled maze of crumbling vaults and moss-covered slabs. To clear the way for the station's foundations, the railway company hired a crew of labourers, led by a grizzled foreman named William Hodge. Hodge was a practical man, his hands calloused from years of wielding pickaxes and his patience worn thin by London's endless bureaucracy. Graves or no graves, he growled to his men, this station'll rise by Christmas. The crew set to work, exhuming coffins and stacking bones in carts bound for a new burial ground in the suburbs. The task was grim, but the men were hardened to it until they uncovered the Frenchman's grave. The trouble began with a letter delivered to the railway office by a stern-faced solicitor from Paris. It claimed the grave of one Monsieur Etienne Dubois, a merchant who had died in London in 1792, lay within the cemetery. Dubois' descendants, a wealthy family from Bordeaux, demanded his remains be returned to France for reburial in their ancestral vault. The railway company, eager to avoid a scandal, ordered Hodge to locate the grave and comply. But the cemetery's records were a shambles, eroded by time and neglect. Dubois' headstone, if it ever existed, had long since crumbled, and the plot was a jumble of unmarked graves. Hodge's men dug where the solicitor's map suggested, their shovels biting into the heavy clay. The air grew foul as they unearthed a rotting coffin, its lid splintered and its contents exposed to the grey London sky. The crew recoiled. Inside lay not one skeleton, but several, 5, by Hodge's count, tangled together like a grotesque puzzle. Skulls grinned from the pile, femurs crossed like kindling, and ribs lay scattered amid scraps of decayed cloth. The men whispered of plague pits or mass burials, but Hodge silenced them with a glare. "Keep digging," he barked, though his own stomach churned at the sight. Word of the discovery spread, and soon a crowd gathered, locals, clergymen, and a reporter from the Times, sniffing for a story. The solicitor, a wiry man named Monsieur, arrived in a black frock coat, his face pale with indignation. "This is an outrage," he cried, brandishing a locket said to contain a lock of Dubois' hair. "My client's ancestor deserves respect, not this desecration." The crowd murmured, and Hodge felt the weight of their stares. The railway company's overseer, a nervous man named Pritchard, hovered nearby, muttering about delays and budgets. "Sort this out, Hodge," he hissed. "We can't have the French kicking up a fuss." Hodge scratched his beard, his mind racing. The skeletons were indistinguishable, none bore marks of identity, and the coffin's brass plate was long gone. Demanded action, but how could they know which bones were Dubois? The crew sifted through the remains, laying them out on a tarp, but the task was hopeless. The bones were brittle, some blackened by the damp earth, others grey with age. The crowd grew restless, and Pritchard's patience frayed. "Pick one and be done with it," he snapped, but Hodge knew a careless choice could spark a diplomatic row. As dusk settled over the cemetery, a strange idea took root in Hodges' mind. He'd heard tales of foreigners' bones being darker, a notion rooted in the era's murky blend of science and prejudice. It was nonsense, he knew, but desperation bred invention. He called his men close, away from the crowd's ears. "Listen, lads," he said, his voice low. "This Dubois was French, right? Stands to reason his bones to be different, darker, like. We'll sort 'em by colour, send the blackest to France, and call it a day." The men exchanged glances, some smirking, others uneasy, but none dared argue with Hodges' iron will. Under the flicker of lanterns, the crew began their grim sorting. They piled the darkest bones, those stained by soil or decay, into a separate heap, ignoring the absurdity of the task. A skull with a cracked brow, a femur streaked with black, a handful of vertebrae. These became Etienne Dubois, or so they declared. The remaining bones, a motley collection of grey and yellow, were carted off to the new burial ground. Hodge presented the chosen remains, two, who peered at them with suspicion, but lacked the expertise to challenge the claim. "These are acceptable," he muttered, clutching the locket, as if it could confirm the truth. The blackened bones were packed into a polished oak box, draped with a French flag, and shipped to Bordeaux with a letter of apology from the railway company. Departed, satisfied, and the crowd dispersed, their curiosity sated. The reporter scribbled a brief note in the Times, framing the incident as a quirky footnote in the station's construction. Hodges' men, sworn to silence, returned to their shovels, and St Pancras Station rose on schedule, its red brick arches a testament to progress. But the cemetery's shadow lingered. Workers whispered of strange occurrences, tools vanishing, footsteps echoing in empty tunnels, a chill that clung to the platforms despite the steam engine's heat. Locals claimed the jumbled skeletons had been wronged, their rest disturbed by Hodges' deception. Some swore they saw a figure in a tattered cloak wandering the station at midnight, his face obscured, his hands clutching a locket that gleamed in the gaslight. In Bordeaux, the Dubois family buried the bones with pomp, unaware they might belong to a stranger or several. The locket was placed in the vault, its hair a silent witness to the lie. Back in London, St Pancras Station thrived, its clock tower piercing the skyline, its trains carrying passengers. Yet beneath the bustle, the cemetery's ghosts endured, their bones scattered, their stories untold. And William Hodge, now an old man, would pause each time he passed the station, his eyes lingering on the platforms, wondering if the Frenchman's true bones still lay beneath, waiting to be claimed. Many thanks for treading this tale's dark path. If its chill gripped you, follow, subscribe, and comment below.